First time I seen him in 15 years. Yeah. He was one of the stars. Do you wish to be heard? Wouldn't give it all down.
Okay. I think he's still looking for it.
We need to sign.
Got it all.
You don't necessarily have to, but I usually do just to let them know. Yeah, make them afraid.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Apologize to you for the delay, but we have people from all over the state that have to drive in, and sometimes the highways are not real agreeable. And so we're ready to go now, and let me tell you that my name is Jerry Fielding. I'm the chairman of the Alabama Ethics Commission, and I want to welcome all of you here, and I hope that your stay will be rewarding. I also want to introduce our commission. In addition to myself, the members of our commission are Judge Charles Price, right to my right, and Ms. Beverly Brady from Auburn to my left, both of whom are lawyers, and then Mr. John Plunk is to my far right, is an attorney from Athens, Alabama. The procedures that you'll see today will be something like I'm going to read to you. We'll have to begin with, we'll have some advisory opinions to consider, and then we'll take up some civil penalty appeals. And there'll be other matters on the agenda as we go down the list. And we also will hear complaints. Those will be done in executive session because we will discuss the good name and character of people, and because of that, we have to do it in a private setting. And we also are under what's called the Grand Jury Secrecy Act. After we make our discussion, we will come back into open session, and we'll vote on each one of those complaints that may be considered. While in executive session, we will consider several, and we will take them up one by one as we get back into open session. If anyone is here to concerning the matter on the agenda today, then it will be necessary that you sign in at the table at the center of the room. And we do request that all cell phones be turned off during the open session. And Judge, don't forget that, okay? He woke me up a session or two ago. We were in here, and all of a sudden the telephone went off, and we all were awakened, and the judge got to talk to somebody. I don't know who it was. I do want to recognize Michael Cobb, the Reverend at the Alreda United Methodist Church, who will give our invocation. Come forward, please, sir. Certainly welcome you here today. Go right ahead.
Grateful to be here. Got a smile on my face because it's raining, a little cooler, right? Yeah. If you would, bow your heads with me. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you, the privilege of prayer, the grand acknowledgement, Lord, that all of us in our own way fall short of your glory, and that we need you. We need your common grace that still causes the rain to fall, causes all of us to see goodness and acts of kindness happening daily. Father, your word says, what does you require of us but to act justly, walk humbly with you. Thank you for the great privilege of prayer that each of us have to be able to commune with you. Lord, we know we have a responsibility to live ethically in our personal lives and business lives and social and political spheres. Help us, Lord, to remember that your kingdom, which is just and merciful and gracious, is still at work in its establishment in this world. And as this group today goes about their business, I pray that your hand would be upon them, that you would give them wisdom, understanding, and a spirit of collaboration. Ultimately, that they would seek peace as we would. For that is the will of your Son. They would be on earth as it is in heaven. So help us, Lord, as this goes about your duty. Give them understanding and sincere contentment in everything that they do. And we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Cobb. And if we ever need another rain, we're going to call on you again. You seem to have connections. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the old business, and I know that y'all have had a chance to talking to the members to read those minutes, and I'll need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Plunk, and seconded by the judge. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries, and the minutes of April 3, 2019, the meeting are approved. The new business to consider today is we are, let me just say this, the term of our former commission vice chairman, Butch Ellis, has ended, and we need to select a new vice chairman for the commission. Do I have a motion to appoint a new vice chairman?
Move Judge Furnish.
Okay, do I have a second? You reckon I ought to call to see if there's any objections from anybody in the audience?
It'll be in order. You probably get plenty.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations. You're now getting extra money, of course, you know that.
No extra thing.
Thank you very much, Judge, for agreeing to do that. All right, we have advisory opinions to consider, and I'm going to call on the commission staff to present the advisory opinions at this time.
Okay. Your Honor, we have had a request, as you know, from Mark White, or Sylvester Lavender on behalf of the Birmingham Airport Authority. It's AO 2019-07. It was on our agenda last meeting. And the commission had said, we asked to continue that advisory opinion in order to do some further research. The commission agreed and said that we would answer it by June. However, as the commission knows through email correspondence from the requester as well as from the staff, we are asking for an extension because of the very specific issue of the definition of county, state, or local funds that is contained within the definition of public employee in our act. We believe the prudent and conscientious thing to do is ask the Attorney General for an opinion about when funds become municipal funds, because the funds generated by utility boards, electric boards, airport authorities, those are generally from self-generation, so the money that they're paid for their rates for their customers to have to service, and if we do not feel comfortable answering when those funds become public. And we think that is appropriate for the Attorney General. We had met with Mr. White and Ms. Dowd in early May about that topic and said that we thought that an Attorney General opinion would be appropriate. They seemed to agree and said they would consider asking it for themselves, because it takes obviously an act of the commission for us to request a formal opinion from the Attorney General. And we believe that was what was occurring until we got correspondence much later from Mr. White saying they had decided that they were not going to seek that opinion. Therefore, we are here asking for our commission to resolution that we ask the Attorney General to answer that question. And one of the other topics that has come up is the long-standing history between the AG and the Ethics Commission that AG not answer ethics questions that are contained within our act. We believe this very specifically is actually outside of our act. It has been defined, or it's been spoken to by the Supreme Court. It's been spoken to by the Attorney General in a couple of different settings involving sunshine law, volunteer fire departments. So it's not just the Ethics Act that's going to be affected about whether these funds are public funds or not. And so we think it's appropriate for the Attorney General.
In our last meeting, there was an understanding and agreement that the Birmingham Airport Authority would be protected.
Yes, sir.
And set that out again.
These are generally about disclosures, and so we have given Mr. White informal advice about all of the questions that he has asked, except for the public funds question, public employees. But we have said that they do not, that the employees, if they were to qualify under our act to file a statement of economic interest, that they do not have to do that until we issue the advisory opinion in this case.
Okay, any questions of this lady? Let's thank Mr. White is here. Do you want to make any comments in regard to the motion?
Yes, sir. First, let me say my worthy adversaries are correct that we did meet and we thought all matters had been resolved. We agreed to share with them our research that we have done on who is under the Ethics Act a public employee. When you read the statute, it describes that person as being compensated from a state, a municipality or county. And that is Ethics Act provision. That is not outside the Ethics Act. We did meet, we did not, our notes do not reflect, nor did we ever say that we would go seek an Attorney General opinion. And in fact, we shared our research. There's no need to get an Attorney General opinion when the Supreme Court of Alabama has already spoken directly to the point and supports our position as to those funds cannot be self-generated funds. Basically, they have to come from the tax powers of the municipality or of the county or of the state. We are absolutely opposed to postponing this. We think this commission not only has the ability, but is mandated to give an opinion on this particular issue, because that's what the statute says, that if it's an Ethics Act interpretation, you give that. You've got the Supreme Court of Alabama already speaking to that. And this is nothing new. The Attorney General historically defers to this commission on interpretations of the Ethics Act. As late as yesterday, when I attended the oral argument in the Hubbard case, the Attorney General, if he said it once, the Solicitor General, he said it multiple times, that what the safe harbor for someone, in this case the airport authority, is an opinion from this body. And I think that to suggest that the Attorney General gets to come in and give an opinion to the Ethics Commission about an interpretation of a provision in the Ethics Act is unprecedented and dangerous ground for us to start going into. So we are opposed to it. We've been down here multiple times. This started back in December. The genesis of this is the staff training to my clients of being told, if you want to get an answer, get a formal opinion. And that's why we're here. We've been here multiple times. I almost got my feelings hurt this morning when I came in and I heard somebody say, well, there's Charlie Brown. He's back again. Go get the football. But I don't see why this has to continually get kicked down the road, and it's always something different. I just think it's time to act. Al Jemison from the Huntsville Airport Authority is here. His general counsel, Amy Nation, is also here with him. We've met, we've in good faith shared our research. Before you is the only draft opinion I know of is the one that we sent, and we would urge the commission to adopt that opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just one more thing? I just don't think that any criticism we might get for being prudent and conscientious in seeking the Attorney General's opinion about something that affects far more statutes than just the Ethics Act is necessarily criticism that I'm upset by. We certainly don't want to answer something that then the Attorney General turns around and says, oh, no, that's our purview. We should have answered that. You are wrong. It is just, 2 months does not seem like a long time, certainly since we have informally told Mr. White that his clients can stand down on any filing responsibilities until we get this opinion. I just don't see the urgency, and I don't see the urgency in the request not being answered until the August meeting. And I can see the negative implications that if we answer it outside of our lane, that is far worse than delaying for 60 days in order to get this opinion from the Attorney General. And it is not we have talked to the Attorney General, and they've said that this is appropriate to answer because it's outside of our act, and that it's an appropriate question for them to answer.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it true, as Mr. White has said, that the Supreme Court has spoken to this issue?
They have spoken.
And other Attorney General opinions have also spoken to this issue?
Yes.
What then, what's the holdup? I mean, what is it we're looking for from the Attorney General?
The Attorney General has issued, okay, so there's a couple of opinions that are talking about volunteer fire departments, and I know before Mr. White even says it, he's going to say that the incorporation of those is different than the incorporation of the airport authority, and I'm not necessarily arguing that. But the Attorney General has said that a volunteer fire department, as soon as they receive any funds, whether they're generated from taxes, fundraising, they came from a municipality, wherever the funds came from, when they come into the possession of the volunteer fire department, they are immediately municipal funds. Okay, and that is in 2001. In 2002, the Supreme Court spoke to this regarding the Sunshine Laws, the Open Meetings Act. and whether or not a board was subject to it. And they discussed public funds and about them belonging, the funds belonging to the municipality. They did not say that they have to be generated. My reading was not that it specifically says it has to be generated from taxes, and that's the only thing that's considered public funds. Those things are in contravention to each other, and this Supreme Court case has never been cited again. And they don't give any authority for why they say that those funds do not become municipal funds if they're generated by, for instance, utility, where the ratepayer is required to do that because it's an oligopoly created by the government, and it's a public corporation. So we just think that that analysis, it needs to be done by the Attorney General, who has,
Well, if we are charged with making a decision under the, according with the Ethics Act, whatever that decision may be, why don't we make it? And then if Mr. White wanna go into circuit court and get the Attorney General's opinion and let the judge decide whether it's controlled or whatever, that'll be his business. We'll call upon to make a decision, whatever that decision may be. And then Mr. White can do with his client whatever he wants to do. Whether the opinion agree with him, and if it's outside of the Ethics Act, the opinion says outside of the Ethics Act. And we move on, and then we finish with this. Because this has been around quite a while. There's been a lot of discussion, not so much debate, but a lot of discussion, and we have to resolve this issue. And I don't know why we, the Ethics Commission, first have to go to the Attorney General's office to get an opinion on interpretation of the ethics law, and that's what we charge to do.
Well, let's be clear, I mean, we're not asking them to interpret our act. And in fact, what really got us started on this decision that maybe a very specific question should be answered by the Attorney General is the specific case that Mr. White has offered. It is a case that arose under the Sunshine Laws outside of the Ethics Act, yet they are offering the conclusions that the court reached in relation to the Sunshine Law as evidence that you should likewise find under the Ethics Act that these are not public funds. So the fact that the whole discussion is generated by something outside of our act just supports the conclusion that this is really something that is outside of our lane, and it's only on that very narrow issue of what makes something public funds that we're asking for the answer. And then once we get that, then it would fall back under us, under the purview of our interpretive authority.
May I respond?
Yes.
This Ethics Commission currently has two totally inconsistent opinions to the airport authorities in Alabama. They told Mobile that they are public employees. They told Huntsville that they're not public employees. We have spent a lot of energy, thanks, and assistance from other people who are interested in this. But to suggest that the Attorney General can overrule the Supreme Court is a little bit far reach, and interpreting a term that is in the Ethics Act. Now, this commission is comprised of plenty of talent. As lawyers, judges, former judges, you have on many occasions been called upon to read a case, to read a decision, and decide is it applicable. You are mandated by statute, I submit, not the Attorney General, who yesterday kept saying, go see the Ethics Commission. Because this is not really the issue, I think, that was here last time. Public funds issue came up, but to continue to ignore the statute, which is plain, and not rule, I think, on this, and Judge, you're right. It's that old line. Go ahead and shoot. Somebody's got to have some relief. And I think that's basically where we are. We think our opinion addressed, as a result of our meeting, every point that was raised by the staff. I just never have thought that you could get an Attorney General opinion to overrule a Supreme Court precedent. Because once you do that, then you can take the rule of law out of the equation.
Anything further from the commissioners? There is a motion made by staff relative to seeking an attorney general's opinion?
Yeah, we were asking the commission to consider that.
Okay. That's the only motion in front of us at this time, except the response to
Correct.
that request.
Yes, the staff's recommendation to the commission is that somebody make a motion to seek the Attorney General's opinion and authorize the resolution to do that.
Okay, do we have a motion in that regard from the commissioners?
I would so move that we ask the Attorney General's opinion on the issues outside of the Ethics Act, to clarify those before we make a ruling which may be in contradiction to prior Attorney General's opinions or prior Supreme Court opinions, so that we stay in our lane and stay out of other lanes.
Give it a second. Hearing no seconds, this motion fails. Is there any other discussion from the commissioners on this particular subject? Okay, we'll move on to the next advisory opinion. Is relative to Mr. Kent Back has asked for the advisory opinion. Are you here?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Are you going to entertain the proposed opinion that is before you?
What do y'all want to do in
I
that?
think the staff needs to get an opinion, whatever that opinion is, let us look at it and whether we can approve it or not.
Yes, sir, we'll do that.
Yes.
You have
Talking about
the
today?
opinion before
Well,
you.
no, it could be all, this don't need to know.
I think the consensus is from the commissioners that it would need to be that would need to come from the commission, and I don't think you're prepared to do that at
No,
this
sir.
time.
No, sir.
Well, let me clarify what, I think, Mr. Chairman, what is all about. I think basically August, we need an opinion
Yes, sir.
from you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does our situation remain the same?
Yes, sir.
As far as reporting? Of course.
Everything is in place as is, has been for the last 2 months. The protections that we've entered last time will continue on till this is resolved.
Your Honor, Augusta Dow, just a couple of questions. We have a proposed opinion before you. A, if there's anything else that is needed, we are certainly prepared to provide it. And B, to the extent that whatever it is you are provided by the staff raises issues that are appropriate or only fair for us to be able to respond to and address, we would appreciate that opportunity.
Okay, I'd appreciate very much, y'all have sat down together and talked about the issue at hand,
Yes,
talked
sir.
about you two lawyers and these two lawyers over here that, from the
Yes, sir.
commission. I'd ask that y'all, again, get back together as soon as possible and try to resolve with a advisory opinion that can be satisfactory to all the people involved here. And so, if you'll do that as soon as possible, I'd appreciate it very much. Because I think the judge has reiterated we need to get this thing concluded, and I think everybody would be satisfied and happy if we can get something together that will be appropriate. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
And we'll get with y'all.
Okay, great.
Okay, the next matter is AONO 219-08. You gonna take this one up?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
The requester in this case is Mr. Kent Back. He's a council member from the city of Gadsden. He is the president and majority shareholder in a company called Bowman and Back Incorporated. Bowman and Back is a cost reduction firm. They work with outside businesses to help reduce their overhead and costs. And as part of that, one of their clients has asked him to make contacts with governmental entities in Alabama on their behalf, basically to market their client services. So he asked us if he could do that without violating the ethics laws. The proposed opinion states that a member of the city council of Gadsden can contact governmental entities on behalf of their private sector employers and clients, provided they not use the fact that they're public officials in order to obtain the business. They do not disclose or use confidential information gained in the course of his official position that could provide financial gain to his employer or client or anyone else. They do not solicit or accept anything for the purpose of corruptly influencing official actions. and that he abide by the restrictions that are contained in a number of other advisory opinions we've issued to similar requesters. In fact, we answered this question previously over the last 2 years 4 separate times, reaching essentially the same conclusion, so we propose that at this time.
Any questions about it?
Mr. Chairman, it's a tough situation when someone wants to serve the public, serve on city council in this case, and still has to make a living. But I don't see how in the world they can not use the fact, how that can be avoided, that they are on that city council and soliciting business. I know there have been other opinions, but I think that's a violation of the act.
Well, one thing that we've included in there to address that concern, as we have in the other opinions, is that who they are prohibited from contacting anybody who has specific business coming before the council, or anybody for whom their official position could make a substantial difference. That's really what that captures, are people whose interests would naturally come before the city council, and it's that attempt to isolate these folks who would typically be within their sphere of influence. That's a phrase that the commission uses.
But the company he's going to be working for, who is he going to be contacting on their behalf?
Universities, possibly, other public entities outside of Gadsden. If it's anybody in Gadsden, if it's any business or relationship with the city council, that's specifically prohibited within the opinion itself.
Just a difference of opinion I have.
Oh, sure. Look, I get it, but this is consistent with the approach that the commission has taken to sort of on this issue.
Thanks.
Okay, do I have a motion in this matter?
I would move that we adopt the opinion or approve the opinion with the explanations as you've given us that were consistent with prior opinions, that there are certain people that they cannot do business with or solicit from.
Ms. Beverly makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
The judge makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
All right, there'll be 3 ayes and 1 nay. Okay, at this time, we'll be moving into the FCPA appeals. This is the commission will consider several appeals from fines which the Secretary of State's office has imposed under the Fair Campaign Practices Act. And under this act, the Secretary of State's office is charged with assessing civil fines against any person who fails to timely file their campaign reports. Once that office imposes these fines, they may be appealed to the commission within 14 days. Upon a finding of good cause, the commission can reduce or set aside the civil penalty. On this issue, the person upon whom the civil penalty has been imposed bears the burden of proof. Again, call on the staff to present the appeals in order for our considerations, and then we have Ms. Cynthia Ralston will be doing that, and we have the Secretary of State's office here in the courtroom. How many do we have over here, Secretary of State?
2, sir.
All right, good. I want to make sure. I know you've had a change on the lawyer over there. Mr. Bill's moved on to another area, hasn't he?
He has.
Okay. But I believe I recognize you from somewhere. Good to have you over here, man. Go ahead, Ms. Cynthia.
Yes, Judge, and I just would like to say that anybody who's here to speak on behalf of, on their own behalf regarding the fines, that these fines are civil impositions, or they're fines that are involved with criminal statutes, so anything you say will be used against you, and you have the right not to say anything. And I'll remind you of that when you come up. But the first FCPA appeal is the Alabama Republican Executive Committee. Is there anybody here for them? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to swear you in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. If you'll just state your name for the record.
Yeah, Harold Socks, Chief of Staff for the Alabama Republican Party, and what I've got a package here, if somebody would pass those out, I think there's...
So you're welcome to give me some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Page 4 is the page, I think, a lot of this information is actually a letter we got from y'all.
We get a lot of this information, so you don't have to go in great detail, you know what I'm saying?
We have this on.
I'll try to make it very short. On page 4 is the page I would like for you to look at. It's an affidavit from the company that does our federal and state filings for us. And you will find on that page in the affidavit where they tried to do filing and it wouldn't accept the filings, but the numbers were entered on the Secretary of State because we do monthly filings. And after all the thing of trying to file and it not accepting it, saying no filing was due, the calls, and I got involved. We went to Secretary of State and says, well, no filing's due till you reach $1,000. Well, we're the party, we reach $1,000, hopefully quick. So we should be doing monthly filing. And what we found out was there's a box after each election cycle. You have to check that box to re-enter. Well, we didn't know that and had not done that in the past. So after the calls and everything, then I talked to the Secretary of State, and they did issue a letter, which is in the back there, of telling people that we have to re-up after each election and say where we're monthly filing or what type of filing. So our complaint is that we did try to file, and it wouldn't accept it, but it was entered. The data was entered on time, is what the affidavit proposes.
Thank you. That was short and sweet, so we'll see what the Secretary of State's office might want to say.
All right, thank you.
Judge, I was just checking the Secretary of State's office. This fine obviously came from this year, so the committee did opt in to the email reminders and the calendar and the electronic filing last year, is the only thing I'll say, is that they avoided this last year by just checking the box to opt into the program. This is what we've discussed in the past, where they have to opt in and then they get the email reminders, and they did that last year. So.
Okay, what says the commission?
Well, explain that again, that what, he's saying that we wouldn't accept the filing, well, yes.
Mr. Helms, for the Secretary of State's
All right.
office, Judge?
Mr. Chairman, all the members, Clay Helms here with the Secretary of State's office. I have Hugh Evans here with me as our general counsel. Our campaign finance system has not changed. It does not have the intelligence, nor does any campaign finance system have the intelligence to know which election cycle you intend to influence. You have to opt into that calendar once you raise or spend in excess of $1,000. It has been that way since the beginning. So, in this case, the Republican Executive Committee did not opt into the calendar until it was after the time to file that report. Nothing was wrong with the system. They just did not opt into the calendar. Now, you can enter in transactions into the system itself, but until you actually file them on a report, they do not become public. They're not public record, which is the sole purpose of reporting to begin with. So, yeah, we understand the points that were made, but we just wanted to be clear that there is not a flaw in the system. Thank you. Do you have anything about that?
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or from the commission? I think we need a motion.
Judge, I move we deny the appeal.
Second.
Motion to deny the appeal is made by Mr. Plonk and seconded by the judge. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, the next matter on the docket is William Earl Barnett.
Is Mr. Barnett here? All right. He's not gonna be able to make it, but he's 125 miles away. He said he'd like to appeal the fine assessed against him for failure to file an expense report for January 31st for his campaign for county commissioner in Barber County. He had no committee except himself. He had no monetary contributions. He paid all expenses himself. Based on this, he doesn't use email, so he did not realize he was required to file a report until he received a phone call from the Secretary of State. And it's his, I believe, his first election.
And I don't think he won, did he?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't. He did not win.
What's this commission?
I move we approve the appeal.
Second.
And for good cause, Sean, moved to set aside at $99.12 fine, okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. John, Elizabeth Burton is next on the list.
Ms. Burton, come on up. If you would, I'm just gonna remind you of your rights, okay? You have the right to remain silent, and you don't have to talk to us unless you want to, okay?
Oh,
Do you wanna waive that right? Okay, and if, you'll raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, and if you'll just state your name for the record,
Elizabeth Burton.
and just speak up a little bit. so they
What,
can-
would you lead her into the,
Sure. Ms. Burton, you had reports due on May the 2nd, 14th, 21st, 29th, June the 1st, and January 31st was an annual report. Do you have an explanation as to why you didn't file those reports on time?
Well, this was my first thing, and I didn't know.
You didn't know that you were required to file any reports?
Yes. And nobody told me until y'all.
Okay.
and you were a candidate for some particular office?
Yes,
What office was that? And where?
commission, Kenny County.
County Commission in Lee County?
Yes.
Were you successful?
Not really, I did pretty good, but it's been my first time.
Do you have anything you want to say relative to these fines that
Oh,
been
I
opposed?
really didn't know until we called. So I am very sorry. But next time, Lord, I will contact anybody who has knowledge of this.
I'm thinking the Secretary of State's where you may have
Yes.
called, is that right, Robin?
Yes, we didn't call, they called.
The folks back there represent the state, and their office is probably where you called and
Yes,
found out
the information.
you had a loose end or two.
Yes, sir. And this was my first, so I don't know next time.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Secretary of State, if she's, Ms. Burton, are you finished with what you want to say?
Yes, ma'am, I'm very sorry. And I don't know next time.
Anyone who'd like to speak from the Secretary of State's office, can you tell me why these fines were not imposed until 2019 when some of them are a year earlier? And did they not pop up in the system or something?
Yes, ma'am, we can't find someone until they actually file a report, so the length of time you see there is us waiting on that person to file. Even if we know they have a report that's late, we don't know exactly how much to fine them, or the details of the fine until they actually file it, and then we file the next day.
Okay. Is there any communication with a candidate who is not filing during an election cycle?
Yes, ma'am. If it's brought to our attention, or if we find it by certifications of candidates, usually we'll have staff go and look and see if they are actually filing. Now, that's not a responsibility of ours, but it's something that we definitely try hard to do, to get them in good standing and to prevent a trickle of like 50 filings at one time at the end of an election cycle. We want them to be filing every time. That's the point of the FCPA law, so we do take that on our shoulders.
So, then do I understand that Ms. Burton filed at some point?
March 12th.
Yes.
Okay, and what did she file on March the 12th?
She would have filed reports for May 2nd, which was a monthly report, May 14th, which was a weekly, May 21st, which was a weekly, May 29th, which was a weekly, June 1st, which was a weekly, and then January 31st, which was an annual. So basically the reports preceding the primary election.
So she actually did file all the reports, but certainly not timely. They were all filed at one time,
Yes, ma'am, almost a year late.
almost a year late. I see that. statistics, but I couldn't quite figure out the big disparity in time.
Ms. Brody, if I could add to what Mr. Jones just said, all of this information is on our website. There is an administrative calendar on our website that shows you the date of every event during that election cycle. It's in the candidate guide. The information is available.
Ms. Burton, if you don't mind, do you use email? Do you use the websites?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just learned how to text not too long ago.
I get that, yes,
And
ma'am.
my children taught me that.
Yeah.
So I'm very sorry.
Okay, anything else from the commission? What would be the desire of the commission?
I move we approve the
Motion would be made to set aside the fines and the cases for good cause shown.
Yes.
By judge.
Second.
And then Mr. John seconds. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. She explained to you what we did if you have any questions, but we approved your appeal, okay?
Thank you, yes.
Good luck to you.
Best of luck.
Can I eat this?
Okay, the next is the Calhoun County Democratic Executive Committee.
Come on down.
You can go out this door right here.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's a little easier for you,
Raise your
brother.
right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Pamela Howard.
And you're representing the PAC.
I'm representing the Calhoun County Democratic Executive Committee.
Okay, can you explain to the commission why your reports were not timely filed?
Yes.
Okay.
First, I would like to send the apologies of our county chair, Sheila Gilbert. Her family had a medical emergency yesterday. She had to head off to Huntsville, so that's why I'm here to speak to you today. Sheila filed the year-end reports for our county executive committee, and at that point, I took over as county treasurer. Throughout the month of January, I entered all of our transactions, our contributions and expenses. Our group in our county, they contribute because we have a headquarters, helps us with our rent and utilities. On February 4th, I went to file the report on the Secretary of State's, because by calendar, that would be the right date. And then, as you've heard, there was no option, no button that I usually would click to file the reports. So I called the Secretary of State's office and spoke with the election division, and they told me that there was no open election cycle, and that once there was an open election cycle, and it was like candidate qualifying wasn't open, that we would then have to opt in. He did go into the system while we were talking and said he did see all of my entries, but that it was not time yet to file. He didn't give me a date when it would be time to file, so when we had our next meeting back in the county, I spoke with Sheila and with Dee Crumley, who's here with me today, our administrative assistant. And because I was new as treasurer, and because we had been filing reports consistently for several years, I think the Doug Jones special election may have had something to do with that cycle never breaking. She called the election commission to speak with them too, to make sure that I had got my information correct. She was told the same thing, that there was no cycle open, but that once it did, we would have to opt into the calendar. And I would like to point out that that conversation would be they were told us March 1st or March 3rd would be when that cycle began, but they didn't give her that date, even though it was only 11 days before that cycle started when she talked to them. So that was on February 20th. After she spoke with them, they did tell her continue entering the data, because we would have to go back and enter it all at once we opted into the calendar. So I continued from February through April, entering every transaction for every donation and every expense that we made. I made sure they were in a timely manner in case it was time to file, but we didn't hear anything at that point. We got an email from the Secretary of State's office on May 2nd, which informed us that we might be late for opting into the calendar, and there was very specific instructions on how to go forward doing that. So as I went into that system and entered our data through the fields, I got to a place where it said, what date specifically did you reach the $1,000 threshold after the election cycle began? And again, I was confused because I didn't have the date the election cycle began. Now, I will say, they made us aware when we spoke with the Secretary of State's office last week that there is a calendar on the website, and I had not done that. But we had been calling in to find out this information. Once I determined that after March 1st, what date we had reached our $1,000 threshold, I put that information in the system and filed the reports that were now past due. I am not saying that we didn't make that mistake, but I am saying that we reached out repeatedly to the elections office at the Secretary of State's office to get help and support, and we were never given that date. Adding to our confusion in the Democratic Party, our party still hasn't opened qualifying for candidates, and so we are kind of in a holding pattern, and being my first time as a treasurer, I had some of that mixed up. And so, I hate to say it's an excuse, but it is where I was at. I'm sorry I got lost in my notes here. I did learn about the calendar. When we got this email saying that we were possibly late, it was on May 2nd, and I feel that it was within the ability of the Secretary of State's office to send that email out for us to opt in a timely manner, also to keep us from being late if they noticed that people were not getting their reports in. What we're asking is that you will consider reducing or waiving our fine, in that we did make honest effort to do the right thing, and we did enter into the Secretary of State system every transaction all year long in a timely manner. So thank you for hearing our appeal, and we will respect your decision.
Any questions from the commission?
Well, I think it's very clear that I view these reports of organizations differently than of individuals. Individuals, very difficult for someone like the previous person running for county commission and first time and learning all about the board, the porter and all of that with the Secretary of State. But organizations should have people on top of what's going on politically. And based on that, are you ready for a motion?
Yes, Chairman.
I move that we deny the appeal.
My son.
So with that comment, I'll say I appreciate the fact that everything was entered, and I understand an honest
Yes,
mistake.
not against her necessarily, but
Nothing
it's
at
just,
all.
and not against the gentleman that went forward with organization, but its organization should have people aware of what's going on and be prepared to deal with these issues.
I don't disagree with your
Thank you.
position, but I do note that efforts were made.
Yeah, thank you.
And I believe you got it under control now, and we'll be able to.
Absolutely, sir. My June report is already filed, and they will be served forward.
Okay, what's, all in favor of the motion to deny the appeal? Say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, it passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Nikki Drake is the next person.
Good morning, Representative Drake, how are you?
Good.
Good. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Do you also understand that you have the right to remain silent, and you don't have to answer questions if you don't want to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you want to waive that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
Dickie Drake.
Mr. Drake, you have, your filings were late on, for the reports, May 31st, 2018, which you paid that fine?
Yes, sir.
And then also on October 30th, October 29th weekly and October 29th daily. And I believe, you said your sister passed away around that time frame.
Yes, ma'am.
And, yeah, on October 29th.
Right, and I brought proof.
No, we don't need proof of that.
But basically, on October 29th, I had a daily and a weekly report due the same day, but I was notified that day that my sister passed away, and basically, it lost its importance at that point. But I did file it the following day.
So just one day late?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the appeal for the fine and the offense.
Second.
appeal, the motion is made to grant the appeal and set aside the convictions, the charges for good cause shown, and second by Mr. John. You made the motion, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Judge seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry for your loss, Mr. Chairman. Willie, oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
Willie Florence, Senior.
Mr. Florence is not gonna be able to attend today. He said that he filed an FCPA report using a paper form on 11/9/2017. He was waiting for a code to input his records but never received it. He said he followed up about 30 days later and was told by the Secretary of State that they never received the FCPA report. He resubmitted the FCPA report and was told 3 weeks later by Eugenia that he had 2 codes in the system. He filed the report as soon as he received the input code on February 2nd, 2018. There was never any intent to influence the results of an election. I'm not sure about that, but.
Okay, what says the commission?
Well, what the Secretary of State, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I'll let you.
Fine.
Willie Florence, you,
Willie Florence, Senior.
Yes, sir. So basically, Willie Florence opted into the calendar and filed the November, December, and January monthly reports in 2017, 2018, all on the same day, February 2nd. So it was catching up to that. Being a county candidate, you cannot file legally, you cannot file by paper with us. So we were rejected every time somebody submits a paper filing, and we know that they're running for county office. It clearly states in the statute, they can only file electronically. So regardless of someone's attempts to file on paper, if they submit it by paper, it will be rejected, and we will contact them and ask them to file in the proper manner. So that's basically what took place here.
I could that requirement is effective as of the 2014 election cycle.
So he filed, he just happened to file paper as opposed to electronically. And so he turned around and filed it electronically, is that correct?
Judge, he did, but he was,
Filed electronically on February 2nd, so
When did he file the paper?
November 9, 2017.
So he did file, was that timely? The paper, was that timely if you had accepted it?
Judge, I think it would have been timely. However, like I said, effective with the 2014 election cycle, it was required by law that the filing be done electronically.
I understand that. So the general public has to understand that you have to file electronically as opposed to by paper. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Well, people don't know how to file electronically, but if that's the law, that's the law. But based on that discrepancy, I move that we accept the appeal and set aside the file.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And the motion would be for good cause shown, the fine would be set aside, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Woodrow L. Giles.
Mr. Giles, I don't believe he's not gonna be able to be here, but Ms. Sandra Giles asked that you please forgive her for not filing her reports on time. I believe she was his spouse filing the reports for him. She was completely in the dark with the whole process and unaware of how everything was supposed to work. Please grant her an extension so she can resolve everything in the right way.
My question to the Secretary of State is everything filed now? Has it been filed? She's asking for an extension to file.
Yes, ma'am, it has been filed. It was filed March 8th this year. So roughly a month and a half late.
Any other questions? What says the commission?
I move we approve the appeal as to the fence and fine.
Second.
Judge seconds. And this motion would be to set aside the good cause shown, to set aside the fine imposed against Mr. Woodrow L. Giles. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, one of the Secretary of State representatives at the podium, just general information, where do you think the system, whether it's us or whoever, is failing these people, or is it failing, are they just failing to look up? I mean, I know we have the commission staff goes out and educates, I guess, existing and elected officials. What do y'all see as a solution if one's necessary? Because out of how many do you get? I know hundreds or thousands of reports get filed.
Mr. Plunk, I think one of the problems is that candidates are not doing their due diligence before they run for office. The information is available. It's on the website. Like I said, we have brochures for them. They can call us. They're just not doing their due diligence. Then the force related, they didn't know they're supposed to file, and we're here.
It's mostly us old people that still hadn't made that complete transfer to the electronic age. Is that fair to say? That's not an excuse. I'm just saying it seems to be that there are people my age or somewhere in my general age group that.
Well, Mr. Plunk, again, I think that the people that are doing their due diligence, when they find they're required to file on fine, they will contact us. And we will have people who will walk them through the process.
Well, generally speaking, if they run under party label, in my opinion, these parties should do more about advising these candidates about their responsibility to file. I'm not saying they don't do that. I'm just saying it appears to me that'll be a good step.
Especially on a local level.
Yeah.
That's where you get major problems about filing all the reports locally. You get some statewide, but mostly locally. And the parties are dropping the ball in that regard, because they need to have some sort of system set up when somebody files, and this checklist, what you gotta do, and who to contact, and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that'll help some of these.
It'll help a lot.
Thank you.
Mid-South Carpenters Regional Council, Pat Klein.
Good, how are you? Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And you're representing the PAC?
Yes.
Okay. James, state your name for the record, please.
Nicholas Stanoyevich.
Okay, oh, you're a lawyer, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Nick. No. Put your hand down.
No.
For the court. Okay, carry on. You're doubly sworn now.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. I also have here with me some documents that were submitted by Nikki Denning, who is the office manager for the Southeastern Regional Carpenters Council. She submitted this along with her appeal, and I wasn't sure if y'all had this information readily available. I can pass it out if you need it, or hold it otherwise. Basically, what this matter is about, the Southeastern Regional Carpenters and the Mid-South Regional Carpenters Council merged, and in the process of that merger, which occurred in July of 2018, during a closeout audit, it was discovered that the Mid-South Regional Carpenters Council, PAC, had not been filing its reports on time. As a result of that, immediately on the day that they realized this in the closeout audit, Nikki Denning, who is the office manager for what is now just the Southeastern Regional Carpenters, contacted immediately the Secretary of State, began the process of getting all the process, or all the past due reports filed. They had filed reports from 2012 to 2017 during the months of June and July, and then as they proceeded, they then immediately requested electronic filing. When they contacted the Secretary of State, the office informed them that they had to file the paper filings first to catch up to date with the past, and once they reached 2017, they could register for online filing, and then go ahead and update the rest of them through the online process. They did that, communicated very diligently with Brent Deal at the Secretary of State's office. Nikki Denning as is evident in her emails, and also wanted me to express that she really appreciated the work of the Secretary of State's office, that they helped her very diligently, walked her through every part of the process, and made sure she understood how to get it all caught up and how to get it, everything properly filed. She wanted to extend specific thanks to Brett Beal, who I understand is no longer with the office, but that he was very helpful and very collegial process for her to get everything filed and up to date. She stayed in very regular contact as she moved through it to try to make sure that she could get this all done in a timely manner. It has now all been resolved. They are set up, doing their online filing, so we're respectfully asking that the commission consider reducing or waiving the fines, or at least reducing the penalty level. They received all 5 penalty letters on the same day after they finally filed the online filing, which we understand, we expected as well. Mr. Beal informed Ms. Denning that would be coming as soon as those filings take. So with that, we'll respect your decision. We appreciate the opportunity to speak here.
Okay, any questions from the gentleman?
Yes, sir. There's a statement on materials that the organizational merger was a surprise for the entire PAC. What was meant by that?
I think specifically she's referring to the whole process involved in it. It was that when these kind of mergers happen in this area, typically it ends up being because one organization is struggling to sustain itself on its own, which, without commenting on the specifics of that, because I wasn't retained until well after that occurred, there were concerns with the management, the way things had been operating, and clearly that had been evident by the fact that at the merger they realized that there had been some oversights. That we're not trying to minimize the seriousness of those, but that was the way that came as a surprise to everybody.
Who was the other organization that merged?
It was the Southeastern Carpenters Regional Council
Okay,
and the Mid-South Carpenters Regional Council. Yeah, we just want to have all the names as similar as possible. We appreciate it.
And that is a region. That's not just state of Alabama. It's regional.
Correct. Their offices are in Memphis, Tennessee. Well, they have offices in Memphis and in Nashville as well.
And if I understand, the failure to file occurred by one of these organizations prior to the merger.
Correct. Yes.
It is I'm sorry, may I ask a question? Does Mid-South Carpenters Regional Council even exist anymore?
It does not.
No,
It
they
has
have
been
been
entirely subsumed by the Southeastern, yes.
Okay, so, and they had not filed since 2012.
Correct, but the PAC still exists, and the PAC is
Right.
now under the control of the Southeastern.
But management had not done the filings that they were
Correct.
supposed to be doing, which is,
And now it is the leadership of the Southeastern Council that is on the Mid-South PAC. That was one of the changes made as Ms. Denning was updating.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chairman, here's from the Secretary of State.
Sure, so it's accurate that we helped them file paper from 2012 to 2017, and then the required filings for 2018 kicked in, so we had them file those electronically. I think everything's pretty clear cut there. One point we would make is that nothing is transparent until you file, and that's a long time of not filing.
Which offenses cover that 2012 to 2018?
None, sir. We
Okay.
didn't have authority to fine for those previous years, so we
Okay.
just helped them get in good standing.
These would have started with July 3rd, 2018.
It appears it's no serious fine. By that I mean the largest is the 4th offense. That's $1,200. Was that due to the amount of funds raised or expended during that cycle?
Yes, that was the month where the PAC expended the bulk of its expenditures for
And that one was filed 2 weeks late, is that right?
Roughly, yes, sir.
Okay.
But it appears, and from this reading, that she contacted Brent Bill for help with online filing September 27th, and again on October 2nd. So looks like the day that it was due, she was trying to get that done.
And if I may also note, she did, Ms. Denning, when communicating with Mr. Beal, she did send him updates of what the expenditures looked like via email as they were getting the process finalized. Which again is not, I understand that the requirement is to file, right?
I would move that we approve the appeal as to the third and fourth offenses.
Second.
Motion is to approve the appeals relative to the third and fourth,
Yes, sir.
and,
And that leaves the fifth alone?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the fifth.
I thought you might not have.
you want to put the fifth in there?
Yes, sir.
Third, fourth, and fifth, approve the appeal on those, and set aside the fines, and deny relative to the first and second, that was,
Yes, sir.
all right, second by the judge, is that right? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes.
Is that fine and offense, Judge?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the case.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, Pike County Republican Executive Committee.
I'm sorry, is anybody here from the Pike County Executive Committee? All right. Ms. Donna Horn said it was my understanding that we did not have to file as we were not giving any money to candidates. Secretary of State confirmed that they were supporting candidates.
What says the commission?
I move to deny the appeal.
Motion made to deny the appeal by Ms. Beverly and second by the judge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote is 4-0. Rocky Edward Writings.
Good morning, Mr. Riley. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And do you also understand that you have the right to remain silent and you don't have to speak here today?
Yes,
Or do you wish to waive that right?
yes.
Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
Rocky Ridings.
Great name. All right, and Mr. Ridings, you had a report due on March the 2nd and on April the 3rd. Could you explain the failure to file to the commission?
Yeah, and first let me do say that I first was ran in 2012 election cycle and was elected, but you did that on paper filing then, and for local candidates anyway. And I'm well aware that you have to electronically file in 2018 and stuff, and I knew all that. So, and I attempted to do that. But on the first one in March that you're talking about, I actually did file it, but I got it incorrect and I got stumped, if you want. I'm not a computer whiz either, as people talk about.
And you paid that one, I believe.
I did. I got stumped on it, and when I called Brent Beal, the Secretary of State, he helped me through that. But I said, Brent, I know I'm late. I mean, I was, and I was 4 days late, I think. And so I paid the fine, and I thought, okay, what's the sense in saying I wasn't late? Because I was. Anyway, the second time came around, and I made good notes, and Brent helped me. The Secretary of State's office is excellent for us about doing that. And so anyway, I got it all done. I got it all filed on the 3rd, which was the day it was due. And I got it entered and everything done. And so I thought, okay, everything's good. So I called Brent the next morning just to actually pat myself on the back for doing it correctly. And Brent said, it's not here. I said, what? So anyway, he walked me back through it again, and he said, well, you didn't send it. He said, it's all, and I did, and he told me how to do it, and I did. I just didn't hit the send button, or whatever it was button. And so I said it, and he said, okay, now I see it. It's all in there, everything looks good, and so forth and so on, but you just didn't send it. In other words, he didn't say it, but he pointed out to me as a dummy, without saying that.
You 1 day late, though?
I was 1 day late, yeah.
Your Honor, I move to approve the appeal.
Motion
On
to-
that second offense, the first one
Yeah.
has been paid.
Yeah, we can't get that money back. State's
Yeah.
already spent in, I'm sure.
I'm sure. They're working on the roads right now, on the way from Hamilton to here.
Motion to approve the appeal from Mr. Riding relative to the second offense made by Ms. Beverly, and who seconded that?
I did.
Mr. John seconds. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Brandy White.
Yes, sir. Come on up. Would you please state your name?
Brandon White.
Okay. And can you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And do you understand that you have the right to remain silent, and do you wish to waive that right? Okay? And you had a report to, oh, it was a major contribution report, all right?
Yes.
And that was due on March the 27th. And can you explain the failure to file to the commission?
Yes, I filed as a candidate for Houston County School Superintendent on March the 20th, and then I opened up a bank account on the 25th of March. I still had not received a PIN, and so I called the Secretary of State. They said I should be receiving a PIN, so I was not able to file. I called back again, and they said, well, your wife did not sign as a committee dissolution designate. They said you still should be receiving a PIN. And on April 1st, which was the day that you were supposed to file your monthly, I called back and talked to Miss Eugenia Stone. She walked me through everything. She got me an emergency PIN, so I filed on that day. However, the major contribution was late. Although it technically wasn't a major contribution, it was my own money, and I was loaning it to my campaign fund. But I did not see anything on there that showed how you document that. All I saw was a contribution. So again, Miss Eugenia Stone contacted me again, or I contacted her. She walked me through how to edit that, and it is now edited. It was just a couple of days after that, but it was edited, and it is now a loan and not a major contribution. So there was never a major contribution.
Okay, any questions?
Well, my immediate response was that it's not a contribution because it's a loan to the campaign, but Mr. Helms has whispered in my ear that any contribution over $20,000 has to be reported, even if it is a loan to the campaign. And so, how he reported it, so the rest of what he said about the pen things, I think, is the most important point. It's not, the contribution, even though it was personal loan, has to be reported.
Because of the amount.
Yes.
And I reported on
But it
the
was.
day that she gave me the emergency PIN, and before that, I was not capable of doing it online.
But Your Honor, I'm gonna move that this bill be approved and the
Second.
offense and fine set aside.
Second.
Motion to appeal is made to set aside the fine and the offense, and also seconded by the judge. That's Ms. Beverly did the motion, and all in favor say aye. Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
You get pretty serious. A big contribution like that, you get in a school board.
Not school board,
Superintendent.
Oh, superintendent, that's different.
That is.
That's a little bit better. I don't know how much better.
Thank you.
Okay, I think at this time, we're in order to go into the executive session to discuss matters related to the character.
Not yet.
What?
We've got one order of business first.
Oh,
Still a
it's
new
on the
business.
script.
It's on the
Oh,
script.
yeah, I see now, yeah. Go ahead and we'll talk about that resolution.
Yes, sir. Currently, the income threshold for filing statements of economic interest is $75,000. The Code of Alabama instructs the commission to increase that threshold to keep up with the Consumer Price Index. It has never been increased. That is because up until now, the increase has been so incremental that it would actually cause more problems to raise it cents and dollars. However, looking at it before this meeting, the current threshold should be $81,000. And because of that, we're asking the commission to adopt a resolution raising that threshold for statements of economic interest to $81,000, beginning in January of 2020.
Okay. So moved. Motion made by Mr. John and seconded by the judge. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? It passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, can I just would like to say something out loud, just because I know that Mr. Alberton just said it out loud, but for the simulcast benefit, this does not change until people have to file their 2019 statement of economic interest beginning in January of 2020. So if they are they're still responsible if they make 75 or above for filing your 2018 if they haven't already done so.
Okay. Because January 1, 2020 is a new year.
Yes, sir.
That's right. You're in the old year right now.
That's right. But yeah, they'd have to, right, that's correct.
Okay, let's talk about executive session, and we are going to be talking about the character and reputation of certain public officials or employees as well as matters covered by the Grand Jury Secrecy Act. No matters will be discussed which are outside the scope of the state guidelines for the holding of executive sessions. We expect to reconvene in hopefully not more than an hour. Any members of the press who are here and have tripods can leave the tripods in, but take everything else out. Anyone secretly recording the executive session will be in violation of the law. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. John makes a motion, seconded by the judge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are going into executive session now. All right, now I think In the matter regarding Ashley Ingram,
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against Ashley Ingram, former Administrative Assistant 2, Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, I move as follows. Based on the evidence that presented to this commission that exists, cause to hold that Ashley Ingram has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney for the appropriate judicial circuit.
and seconded by Mr. John. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. In the matter of Kate Bell,
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against Kate Bell, teacher, Elmore County Board of Education, I move as follows. Based on the evidence that's presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Kate Bell has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case has committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be handled administratively and be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
and the second was by Mr. John, is that right?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? It passes 4-0. Lauren Smith.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint filed against Lauren Smith, teacher, Elmore County Board of Education, I move as follows. Based on the evidence that's presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Lauren Smith has committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be handled administratively and be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Seconded by Mr. John. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 4-0. In the matter of, let's see, that's Laura Lynch.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against Laura Lynch, teacher, Elmore County Board of Education, I move as follows. Based on the evidence as presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Laura Lynch has committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be handled administratively and that it be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Second. Seconded by Mr. John. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 4-0. In the matter of Robert Gunn Jr.
Mr. Chair, with regard to the complaint as filed against Roger Gunn Jr., Fire Chief, Town of Thorsby, I move as follows. Based on the evidence as presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Roger Gunn Jr. has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Seconded by Mr. John. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 4-0. In the matter of Christopher Price.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against P. Christopher Price, former police officer, town of Bloodville, moves as follows. Based on evidence presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that P. Christopher Price has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. John. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. In the matter of Robert Grissom.
Mr. Chair, with regard to the complaint is filed against Robert Grissom, former police chief of the town of Blountsville, I move as follows. Based on the evidence that's presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Robert Grissom has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move this case be referred for review, appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Second.
Ms. Beverly seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. I believe we on the next one is Phyllis Quinn.
Mr. Chair, with regard to the complaint is filed against Phyllis Quinn, former administrative assistant to Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. I move as follows. Based on the evidence as presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Phyllis Quinn has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. Further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
And the judge.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. In the matter of Jim Smith.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against Jim Smith, mayor of town of Ransburg, I move as follows. Based on the evidence presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Jim Smith has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. I further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Christina Kirchhoff.
Mr. Chair, with regard to the complaint is filed against Christina Kirchhoff, former Human Resources Clerk, University of Alabama, I move as follows. Based on the evidence as presented to this commission, there exists cause to hold that Christina Kirchhoff has violated the Alabama Ethics Act. Further move that this case be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney and the appropriate judicial circuit.
All in favor, say aye.
We have a Judge Price second.
Second.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And the next one is a matter of Christina Myers.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the complaint that's filed against Christina Myers, former Director of the Department of Development College of Human Sciences at Auburn University, I move as follows. Based on the evidence that's presented to this commission, there exists cause to believe that Christina Myers has committed one minor violation of Alabama ethics law. I further move that this case be handled administratively and that it be referred for review and appropriate legal action to the district attorney of the appropriate judicial circuit.
And Mr. Jones seconds, I believe. And
I recuse, Your Honor.
for the record, Ms. Beverly recuses. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 3-0. In the matter of Amanda Hall is continued, I think. Is that right? We'll take that up next. Now Mr. Director, we are in, you have a list of cases you want us to take action on?
Yes, sir, we presented a list of cases which the staff recommends dismissing because there's insufficient evidence to support a finding of probable cause. So we're requesting that you solicit a motion to dismiss those cases.
So moved.
Second.
And John makes the motion and the judge seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, Mr. Director, is any other business for us to consider? I think maybe so.
Yes, sir, you've got final disposition of administrative resolutions which have already been approved by the Attorney General or the DA you should consider.
We have those ready for our, yeah, we got Karen Kennedy to be first. That'd be Judge Price, I believe.
Karen Kennedy. Yeah. On April 3rd, 2019, Alabama Ethics Commission found that Karen Kennedy, former office coordinator of Shade Valley High School, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Karen Kennedy requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution on the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 10th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Danny Carr, District Attorney, 10th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted, this matter be handled administratively as follows. That an administrative penalty in the amount of $1,000 ordered by the commission, and that the administrative penalty to be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order online payment on or before June the 19th, 2019.
And Mr. Plump seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Next one's Richard Anderson.
I've got Rachel Anderson.
Oh, yeah, Rachel Anderson, you got it right.
On April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Rachel Anderson, former executive secretary for the Alabama Board of Dental Scholarships, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Rachel Anderson requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 10th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Danny Carr, District Attorney, 10th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. That an administrative penalty in the amount of $25 is ordered by the commission and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
And Mr. Plump seconded. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Adrian Lingsfield is next, Ms. Brady.
Yeah, it's also mine, yes, sir. On April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Adrian Lingsfield, Specialist 1, Auburn University, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Adrian Lingsfield requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 37th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Brandon Hughes, District Attorney, 37th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. That an administrative penalty in the amount of $150 is ordered by the commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019. That's Mr. Plunk.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And the next one is Mark Fulton. Mr. Price.
On April 3rd, 2019, Alabama Ethics Commission found that Mark Fulton, firefighter, captain, training officer, city of Tuskegee, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Mark Fulton requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 5th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Ramsey Houston, district attorney of the 15th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move the 5th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. An administrative penalty in the amount of $150 is ordered by the commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
And Mr. Plunk, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And Philip Porter is next.
Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Philip Porter, Lieutenant, Town of Thorsby Fire Department, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Philip Porter requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Randall Houston, district attorney, 19th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. Administrative penalty in the amount of $50 ordered by the commission, that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
Mr. Price seconded it, I believe. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And the next one is Jay Hafner.
Mr. Chairman, on December 19, 2018, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Jay Hafner, supervisor of the Fisheries Section, Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Jay Hafner requested an administrative resolution on that date. Commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 6th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Hayes Webb, district attorney of the 6th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted, that this matter be handled administratively as follows. That administrative penalty in the amount of $800 is ordered by the commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on before June 19, 2019.
And I believe Mr. Price seconded it. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Laura Nelson. Ms. Blake.
On April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Laura Nelson, therapeutic massage instructor, Gadsden State College, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Laura Nelson requested an administrative resolution on that date. The commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 16th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Jody Willoughby, district attorney, 16th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. That an administrative penalty in the amount of $100 is ordered by the commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
Mr. Plunk seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Susan DeGrove.
Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Susan DeGrove, teacher, Elmore County Board of Education, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Susan DeGrove requested an administrative resolution on that date. Commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the district attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Randall Houston, district attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and that this matter be handled administratively as follows. That administrative penalty of $200 is ordered by the commission. That the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
Mrs. Brady seconded, I believe.
So second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, it passes 4-0. And Elizabeth Kohler. Mr. Plum.
Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Elizabeth Collar, teacher, Elmore County Board of Education, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Elizabeth Collar requested an administrative resolution on that date. The Commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded it to the District Attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Randall Houston, District Attorney, 19th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and that this matter be handled administratively as follows. That administrative penalty in the amount of $400 is ordered by the Commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on before June 19, 2019.
Ms. Brady seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, passes 4-0. Erica Tice.
Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Erica Tice, teacher of the Elmore County Board of Education, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Erica Tice requested an administrative resolution on that date. The Commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded to the District Attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Randall Houston, District Attorney, 19th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted and this matter be handled administratively as follows. That administrative penalty in the amount of $400 is ordered by the Commission. That the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on or before June 19, 2019.
Yes, Ms. Brady.
All right, I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, passes 4-0. And Leslie Mattox is the last one.
Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2019, the Alabama Ethics Commission found that Leslie Maddox, teacher of the Elmore County Board of Education, had committed one minor violation of the Alabama Ethics Act. Leslie Maddox requested an administrative resolution on that date. The Commission unanimously approved an administrative resolution of the case and forwarded the District Attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit. That request has been approved by Randall Houston, District Attorney, 19th Judicial Circuit. Accordingly, I hereby move that the request be granted, this matter be handled administratively as follows. That administrative penalty in the amount of $200 is ordered by the Commission, and that the administrative penalty be paid to the Ethics Commission by cashier's check, money order, or online payment on before June 19, 2019.
And Ms. Brady is the second.
I second,
All
yes,
in
sir.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, passes 4-0. Any other matters to take up now? Adoption of policies and procedures manual for commission staff, is that something we need to take up?
Mr.
You
Chairman.
just bring it to our attention.
That's all I'm doing is bringing it to your attention. What I understand from personnel, and Elizabeth, please confirm this to the commission, there's no requirement that you officially adopt it. It's really a staff issue, a staff management issue that falls under my authority. However, I wanted to alert y'all to the fact that we prepared a policies and procedures manual just to see if you had.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Any.
Like y'all did a good job.
I
I
tried to find it over email, I couldn't locate it, I like that copy.
Look good.
Sure. Okay, I just wanted to see if you had any,
But I want to check it and see.
Do you have something you want to say?
In the recitation on Mark Fulton, which I believe was you, Judge Price, he was from Tuskegee.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that to
But
Jessica
it's-
notice.
Right, it's
Yeah.
not Randall
It's
Houston.
not Randall Houston.
It's judicials or some of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it to her attention.
All right,
Yeah, June.
do any other matter, everything else is concluded, and right now, the next meeting is August 7, 2019, at 9:30 a.m. I need a motion to adjourn. Beverly, I believe you're ready to go home, aren't you?
My turn.